It's January. The sun went down at 4 in the afternoon, and it won't come back for 16 hours. Inside your home, there's no glass in the windows, just a wooden shutter and a gap the wind pours through. The floor is dirt. The walls are mud and straw. And the only thing standing between you and the cold that's already killed livestock in the field outside is a single fire in the middle of the room. If it goes out tonight, you might not see morning. There's no thermostat. There's no next room. For a medieval peasant, winter wasn't a season. It was a siege. Today, you are one button away from being warm. The heating clicks on in the night while you sleep, and you wake up to a house held at a perfect temperature no matter what the sky is doing outside. You've probably never once feared the cold. Not really. But for most of human history, and especially in the depths of the Middle Ages, winter was one of the deadliest things a person would face every single year. And surviving it took skill, planning, and a set of tricks that are genuinely brilliant once you understand them. And here's the part that makes it worse. For a big stretch of the medieval period, the winters weren't just cold. They were getting colder. Starting around the early 1300s, Europe slid into a long, cold snap that historians call the Little Ice Age. Temperatures dropped. Rivers that had never frozen began to freeze solid, and people skated on stretches of the Thames in London. Then, in 1315, it rained almost without stopping. Crops rotted in the fields, livestock died, and over the next 2 years the Great Famine killed millions across Europe. This was the world medieval people had to survive. So how did they do it? It all started with the fire. But not the kind you're picturing. Most peasants didn't have a fireplace against the wall with a chimney. That was expensive, it needed a skilled mason, and it burned through far more wood. Instead, the average medieval home had a single open hearth, a fire pit, right in the middle of the floor. The whole house was built around it. There was no chimney at all. The smoke just rose up and drifted out through a hole in the thatched roof, which meant the inside of a medieval home was often thick with smoke. You'd have lived with stinging eyes and blackened rafters. But that fire was everything. It was heat, it was light, it was where every meal was cooked, and it was the center of the entire household. Letting it die in the middle of winter was a genuine emergency. Which brings us to the next problem. That fire needed feeding, constantly, and fuel was not free. Gathering enough wood to burn all winter was a massive, months-long job that ate up huge amounts of a family's time. In many places, peasants weren't even allowed to cut down whole trees on their lord's land. They had the right to collect only fallen or dead wood, sometimes using a hook or a long pole to pull dead branches down. That's actually where the old phrase, by hook or by crook, is often said to come from. And where wood was scarce, people burned whatever they could. Dried peat cut from bogs, or even dried animal dung, which burns surprisingly well. Nothing that could keep a fire alive was ever wasted. But here's where it gets clever, because the medieval peasants' real genius wasn't the fire. It was everything they did so they'd need less of it. Start with the house itself. Those mud walls you'd sneer at were actually good insulation. The classic method was wattle and daub, a woven lattice of wooden strips packed with a sticky mix of clay, straw, and often animal dung, which dried into a thick, dense wall that held heat far better than bare wood. The floors were often covered in a thick layer of straw or rushes for insulation underfoot. The windows were tiny, just small openings with wooden shutters, because glass was a luxury almost no peasant could dream of, and a small hole loses less heat. The whole home was a low, snug, heat-trapping box by design. And then there's the trick that sounds strange today, but was pure survival genius. They shared their homes with their animals. A common type of medieval peasant house was the longhouse, a single, long building divided into two sections. Your family lived at one end. Your animals, the cattle, the pigs, the goats, lived at the other, sometimes separated by nothing more than a low partition. Yes, it meant living with the smell and the noise, but a cow gives off roughly the same heat as a small electric heater, running all day and all night for free. A handful of large animals in the next room could keep the whole building above freezing on the coldest nights. Your livestock wasn't just food and labor. In winter, it was central heating that fed itself. Now let's talk about the most important few hours of the day, nighttime. Because once that central fire burned down to embers, the temperature inside would plummet, so people got resourceful. They'd heat a stone or a brick in the fire, wrap it in cloth, and tuck it into the bed to warm the sheets, the original hot water bottle. They wore hats to bed, the actual origin of the nightcap. And most importantly, nobody slept alone if they could help it. Entire families slept together in one bed, piled under heavy wool blankets and furs, sharing body heat. The idea of everyone having their own separate bedroom would have seemed insane, and honestly, dangerous. Warmth was a group project. You survived the night together, or you struggled through it alone. Then there was what they wore, and medieval people understood something we sometimes forget. The secret to warmth is layers. The base layer was linen, worn right against the skin because it was softer and could be washed. Over that went wool, thick, heavy, and brilliant at trapping warmth even when slightly damp. Then cloaks, hoods, mittens, and woolen caps on top. They even understood ventilation. Because sweat makes you cold, people would peel off a layer when working hard, then pile it back on the moment they stopped. When they had to go out into the freezing cold of a stone church, some carried hand warmers, hollow metal balls filled with hot coals to keep their fingers from going numb during a long mass. But none of it, not the fire, not the animals, not the wool, would matter if there was nothing to eat. Because staying warm burns calories, and winter was when food was scarcest. So survival actually began months earlier, in autumn. This was the season of frantic preparation. Grain was stored, vegetables were buried in cellars, and around late autumn, families would slaughter livestock they couldn't feed through winter, then salt, smoke, and preserve the meat to make it last. Through the coldest months, that food became thick, calorie-dense stews and pottage, bubbling away in a pot over the fire, food designed to fill you up and give your body the raw fuel it needed to generate its own heat. A full belly was another layer of protection against the cold. So put it all together, and a picture emerges that's the opposite of helpless. A medieval peasant facing winter wasn't just shivering and hoping to survive. They were running a whole system. The smoky central fire, fed by wood gathered over months. The thick, insulated walls and the low, snug house. The animals in the next room throwing off free heat all night. The shared beds and the warm stones. The layered wool and linen. The autumn slaughter and the cellar full of food. Every single piece was a hard-won answer to a problem that could kill you. Nothing was an accident. All of it was knowledge, passed down and refined over countless brutal winters. So the next time your heating clicks on in the night and you don't even stir, think about that. Warmth, for you, is something you've never had to earn. It arrives silently, invisibly, while you sleep. For your ancestors, surviving until spring was the single hardest thing they did all year. They did it with mud, fire, wool, animals, and each other. And every trick they used, every clever little method for holding on to heat, is a big part of the reason you're here at all, to enjoy a warmth they could never have imagined.